Sleep in the garage tonight. My real boyfriend's coming over. That's what she said, word for word, like she was asking me to take out the trash. No eye contact, no smirk, just cold, glossy lipstick and a casual swipe on her phone screen. I stood there, holding a six-pack of the cheap beer I knew she didn't respect me for drinking, my back throbbing from a week of crawling under busted HVAC units for clients who still call me sir but never tip. My boots were still muddy, the kind of mud that dries up and flakes into your carpet, the kind of mess she used to greet me with a smile and a towel for. 17 years of marriage, reduced to a sentence sharp enough to slice skin off bone. I looked past her. There were two glasses on the counter. Cabernet, the one she always called our anniversary wine. Candles flickering low like this was a date night, and I'd just crashed it. She had music playing. Marvin Gaye. That one cut deep for reasons she probably never even thought of. She didn't even pause to gauge my reaction, just kept scrolling, like she was waiting for a delivery. The man she apparently thinks is real. Real what? Real reckless? Real desperate? Or maybe just real enough to make her feel young again for 43 minutes and a bad bottle of wine. I should have said something, should have shouted, should have smashed the bottle, flipped the table, demanded an explanation, anything but what I did. But instead, I set the beer down on the island, gently, quietly, no sound. Grabbed my keys from the hook next to the fridge, the same hook that once held our first house key. I pocketed my wallet, shrugged on the same coat she bought me for Christmas 3 years ago with a tag still dangling from the inside seam, and walked to the door. "Enjoy your night," I said, my voice so calm I barely recognized it. She didn't reply. There's something about betrayal delivered without venom that sinks deeper. If she had screamed or cried, I'd know she still had some heat left for me. But no, this was surgical, planned. She'd probably texted him already, garage clear. That was the moment. The exact second I realized I was just another outdated appliance in her home, something she hadn't thrown out yet out of laziness or guilt, but no longer served a purpose. Now, before I go further, I'll say this. If you've made it this far, you probably relate on some level. Maybe you've been sidelined in your own life. Maybe someone's made you feel disposable. And if you have, do me a favor, subscribe. Not because I need numbers or validation, but because 97% of you read this without subscribing. And honestly, it keeps our team going. We dig deep to write what people don't talk about out loud. And it helps to know someone's listening, really listening. Back to that night. I didn't slam the door. I closed it like a man carrying his own eulogy in his chest. It was cold outside, the kind of cold that wraps around your bones and reminds you you're still alive in all the wrong ways. My truck was parked a little crooked, like always. She hated that. I sat inside for a minute. No music. Just the soft tick of the engine settling and the hollow thud of my own pulse. I looked at our porch, the one I'd rebuilt after the termite rot 3 summers ago while she and her friends were in Napa. Every nail, every board, every detail. Wasted labor. Then I looked at the garage door. I could have gone in, slept on the old army cot wedged between paint cans and forgotten holiday decorations, but I didn't. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. I didn't want to be part of her set design. I wasn't going to be the pathetic husband hiding in the garage while some guy used my shampoo upstairs. So I started the engine, backed out slowly, and headed toward the edge of town. There's a small motel past the truck stop tucked behind a diner that smells like fryer oil and broken dreams. They don't ask questions at that place. Just take your card, hand you a key, and point toward the ice machine like it's a sacred relic. The room was beige, not just the walls, but the air, the light, even the silence. It all felt faded, like it had given up trying to be anything other than tolerable. I didn't even take off my boots, just lay down on the stiff mattress, stared at the ceiling, and counted the cracks that looked like tiny branching rivers. That's when I started remembering. Our wedding, how her hand trembled during the vows, the way she smiled when we moved into our first place, a crumbling duplex with peeling wallpaper and a bathtub the color of regret. I remembered her crying when her mom passed and how I held her for hours on the kitchen floor. I remembered fixing her car in January sleet so she wouldn't miss her sister's baby shower. And I remembered how slowly her thank yous turned into, well, that's what you're supposed to do, right? She used to tell me I was her anchor. Then I guess one day she decided I was just weight. Somewhere between that thought and the fluorescent hum of the bathroom light, I dozed off. Not sleep exactly, just a drifting state of mind where time becomes blurry and your thoughts get loud. And then, at exactly 3:05 a.m., My phone exploded on the nightstand. Not literally, but 48 missed calls, a string of voicemails, and one message that changed everything. Please come back. He saw your photo, Googled your name, and left. Who are you? I sat up, not suddenly, slowly, like a man waking up to find a different life waiting in the corner of the room. And I smiled. The guy behind the hotel counter looked like he'd seen too many nights like mine. Didn't even blink when I slid my card across the desk with a barely there nod and said, just one night. He handed me a key card without a word, just a lazy motion toward the hallway like he was dealing blackjack in purgatory. Room 216. Smelled like bleach, old fabric softener, and the kind of secrets no one writes down. I didn't even bother undressing. Kicked off one boot, then the other, and lay flat on the bed, coat still zipped, phone face down on the nightstand like it was some cursed object I wasn't ready to touch yet. The ceiling was beige, cracked at one corner, the kind of cracked that says the management's been meaning to fix it since 1998. My eyes traced the line across the plaster like it meant something, like it was a map out of this mess, if I just stared hard enough. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just existed, one breath at a time, and in that breathless stretch of silence my brain did what it always does when there's too much space to think. It ran the reel, 17 years of footage, unedited, unskippable. Birthday cakes she didn't finish. A miscarriage in year 3, her dad's back surgery, how I spent nights under his roof patching shingles while she and her sister argued about which shade of beige his bathroom should be. I remembered the summer we had no ace and how we camped out in the living room with popsicles and fans, laughing like broke kids on vacation. I remembered the way she used to say, "You're not exciting, but you're good," like that was a compliment. But the last few years, that line got shorter, less sweet. She'd say it with a sigh now, like being good was a flaw, like stability was sandpaper against her skin. She wanted spontaneity, thrill, a man who'd throw her against the wall, not one who replaced the water heater and called her lunch in between fittings. And God help me, I thought being her safe place would be enough. It never is, not for women like that. They get bored with warmth. They want sparks, not coals. They want to feel alive, even if it kills the person keeping them grounded. I must have nodded off somewhere between regret and numbness because when the buzz hit, violent, sudden, like a defibrillator, I jumped. 3:05 a.m. My phone lit up the nightstand like it had been waiting to bite me. Notifications spilled down the screen like a slot machine gone berserk. 48 missed calls. Voicemails stacked like a crisis hotline. Then one text. Just one. Please come back. He saw your photo, Googled your name, and left. Who are you? At first I thought it was a joke, maybe autocorrect. Maybe she meant something else. Maybe he got bored. Maybe he realized she's a bit of a narcissist with expensive perfume and cheap empathy. But no typos, no haha, just panic and digital ink. He saw your photo, Googled your name, and left. My hand stayed still. Didn't reply. I let the glow of the screen burn into my pupils. My name, the one I used to carry with weight, the one I buried years ago when I chose this quiet life, this quiet woman. Funny thing about names, most people never ask what yours meant before they met you. They just assume, and she never asked, never once said, "Tell me who you were." She liked who I wasn't. Not dangerous, not messy, not complicated, until she found out I was all three. I stared at the screen for a long time, felt something shift, slow and deliberate, like the creak of an old door swinging open. Not fear, not anger, just curiosity, controlled, cold. What exactly had he found? I hadn't Googled myself in years. I knew what used to be there. Not the real files, of course. Those were locked, encrypted, sealed tighter than a senator's search history. But echoes, whispers, enough to scare a man who thought he was walking into the bed of a suburban housewife. I could only imagine the look on his face. Maybe he saw the photo. Me younger, sharper jawline, that expression I had when I didn't care if someone lived to tell the tale. The expression I spent years unlearning, replacing with soft eyes, polite smiles, harmless routines. I picked the phone up, not to call her back, just to listen. I hit play on one voicemail, not sure why. Her voice, shaky, high-pitched. He said you're dangerous, that you weren't who I said you were. He's gone. He left in his car without even... He said you might be in witness protection or Something. What the hell, David? What did you do? Who are you? I smiled, just a little. I didn't do anything, sweetheart. You just never cared enough to ask. And now? Now you want to know? Too late. She thought I was furniture, a worn-out recliner you kick when the cushion sags. She had no idea there was a locked compartment underneath, no idea there were teeth. I lay back down, phone still in hand, turned the screen off, let the silence return. And for the first time in years, it felt like an ally. I didn't reply, not right away, maybe not ever. I just sat there in that dim motel room, phone heavy in my hand, reading the message over and over like it was written in a foreign language. Please come back. He saw your photo, Googled your name, and left. Who are you? The question hung there, dense and ridiculous. After 17 years of marriage, that's the first time she asked me who I am. She used to call me predictable, steady, reliable, her little rock in a boring stream. But now, suddenly, I was a mystery she had to solve, because some frat-shirted finance reject saw my name on a photo frame and sprinted out the front door like the devil himself was chasing him. I looked at myself in the cracked bathroom mirror, the face she found forgettable, the one she said blended in too well. I saw the crow's feet, the graying beard, the permanently tired eyes, the man she thought was nothing more than a human ATM with decent rotator cuff strength. That was the version she chose to see, because it was easy, harmless. But that name, it used to mean something. To some people, it still does. That's what Mr. Romance upstairs figured out too late. I left the bathroom light on. It buzzed like a mosquito with a hangover, but I liked the sound. Gave my thoughts rhythm. You want to know who I am, sweetheart? Let me take you back, not too far. Just before I met you. Before the khakis, before the Saturday lawn work, before the we should try couples yoga conversations. I was known, not famous, not that kind of known. I was the guy people called when the situation didn't have a name yet, when the money was wired from 4 countries and no one wanted to leave fingerprints, when a meeting had to happen, but no one could be seen arriving. I wasn't the man at the table. I was the one standing by the door, nodding once, making sure that meeting didn't go sideways. There were years when I didn't sleep in the same country twice in a month. Years when my name showing up on a flight manifest triggered silent alerts in at least 3 databases. There's a reason I work at an insurance firm now. It's the only industry where no one questions vagueness, where saying I handle risk assessment means exactly nothing and no one asks follow-ups. It took years to disappear, to become no one. I traded that life for a 2-car garage, a dog that shed on the couch, and a woman who said, "It's nice to have someone boring for once." Boring. She never saw the way I watched crowds, how I always sat facing exits, how I never drank more than 1 glass, how I changed the locks myself every year, not because I was paranoid, but because habits die slow. She never saw me hesitate before opening packages or the way I checked our back door twice after midnight. She didn't see because she didn't look. Now she had. Now she typed my name into a search bar and got more than she bargained for. Probably saw an old news article, unnamed security asset aids and high-risk extraction, with my blurred-out face in the background. Or the federal committee transcript with a redacted block where my statement used to be. Or maybe just a forum post, a conspiracy nut quoting a name no one could verify but plenty remember. And now she wants answers. But answers require investment. Interest, curiosity even, all things she ran out of long ago when the mortgage was paid and the bathroom was remodeled. She thinks this is about her betrayal, but here's the truth. Her mistake wasn't sleeping with someone else. Her mistake was assuming I was safe to betray. Big difference. I walked back to the bed, sat on the edge, and stared at the wall like I was expecting it to blink. The air conditioner hummed like it knew things too. What did he see in that photo? I bet anything it wasn't the suit. It wasn't the stiff smile. It was the eyes. You don't unlearn that look. You just lower your eyelids and hope no one notices. But some men do notice, especially the ones who've danced near that fire themselves. He saw me, and that's why he ran. Smart guy, smarter than her. She still thinks she's in control of the conversation, still thinks this is some emotional mess she can mop up with crocodile tears, and I didn't know. But the second she sent that text, the balance shifted. I wasn't the quiet husband anymore. I wasn't the wallpaper. Now I was the question. And some questions aren't meant to be answered, they're meant to be feared. The sun crawled into the motel room like it was apologizing for showing up, pale and uncertain, as if even daylight wasn't sure it should witness what the night had left behind. My boots were still by the door, half caked in yesterday. My coat was on the chair, and my phone, well, my phone had turned into a confession booth. There were more missed calls than I could count, more voicemails than I had the patience to open, each one a chapter in a book she was writing now, desperate to edit a story she never cared to read until the final pages. I tapped the speaker on the first message. David, please pick up. I don't know what's happening. He freaked out, said you weren't who I told him you were. He looked pale, like actually scared. I thought maybe he had some kind of episode, but then he just left. He ran. What's going on? Please call me. I'm scared. Tap delete. Second message. Okay, seriously? What the hell is this? What's this file he found? He said you had some kind of military record, like not just ROTC or National Guard, but classified. Are you in something? Were you in something? David, I thought I knew you. Tap, delete, third. I didn't mean to hurt you, okay? I just wanted to feel alive again. I wanted someone who wasn't predictable. I didn't think he thought you were in witness protection or something. He wouldn't even tell me what he saw. He just said, ask your husband who he used to be. So I'm asking, who are you? Tap, 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 delete, delete, delete. It was like scrubbing blood off tile. There's always something left in the grout, no matter how hard you wipe. Then came the one I didn't delete. Did you hide who you are from me? That one made me stop, not because of the question itself, but the weight she packed into that pause between you and R. Like she realized mid-sentence she'd never even wondered before, that maybe all this time she hadn't married a man, just accepted a placeholder, someone to fill the space between her reflection and her ambition. I didn't hide, she just never asked. In 17 years, she never once leaned over after dinner and said, tell me about the version of you that existed before me, because it didn't matter. To her, I was safe, soft, a fixed object she could lean on when the winds got rough and ignore when the sun came back out. And now that the illusion cracked, she's panicking. Funny how people scream, you lied to me, when what they really mean is, you didn't volunteer the truth I never wanted until now. I put the phone down on the desk beside the half-empty plastic cup of motel coffee. Tasted like burnt cardboard. Perfect for this moment. I stepped outside. The parking lot smelled like diesel and frost. A long-haul trucker was sleeping in the cab next to a rig that looked like it hadn't moved since the Cold War. A couple argued 2 doors down, something about a cousin and a credit card. I leaned against the railing and let the cold bite into my skin. It grounded me, reminded me I was still here, still solid. I could feel the shift, not just in her, but in everything. The way silence hung heavier, the way the air itself seemed to wait on me now. She was unraveling, spinning in a storm of her own design, grasping at the edges for something stable, and realizing too late that the man she'd treated like furniture was the only thing that had ever kept her grounded. Her messages kept coming. I didn't play them. I didn't need to. They all said the same thing. Tell me this isn't real. Tell me I didn't make the worst mistake of my life. Tell me I can still reach you. She didn't understand that when you push a man like me past the brink, he doesn't scream, he doesn't threaten, he leaves, not with a bang, with a vanishing. Her world was built on assumptions, that I'd always come home, that I'd always forgive, that I'd always stay silent. But here's the truth. No one tells you. Silence isn't passive. Silence is a weapon. And she just handed it to me. I went back inside, closed the curtain, sat down. The walls were thin enough to hear the news playing in the room next door. Something about a senator caught lying. Someone important pretending they weren't who they used to be. I almost laughed. Pretending not to be who you are is exhausting. Pretending you never noticed. That's worse. She wants answers now, wants the version of me that existed before I traded that life for porch lights and Costco runs. She had 17 years to ask, 17 years to know me, but instead, she used that time to mold me into someone she didn't fear losing. Now she gets to learn what regret really sounds like, and I won't even have to say a word. The call came just after noon. I was sitting in a booth at a diner older than my marriage, nursing bad coffee and better memories. The waitress, Patty, name stitched in faded red on her uniform, had topped off my cup 3 times already, each time with a small, quiet kindness, like she could see I was somewhere else entirely. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, but local. I let it ring out once, twice, then picked up, saying nothing. David? Her sister's voice, Carrie, shaky, unsure, like she was stepping into a conversation mid-explosion. Hey, she's scared, like really scared. I mean, she won't stop pacing. She keeps checking the windows, keeps saying she didn't know who you were. I stirred my coffee with a spoon, let the metal scrape the ceramic just loud enough for her to hear. She said the guy, her friend, left your house in the middle of the night, grabbed her laptop, took off, didn't say goodbye, didn't even put his shoes on, just bolted. He told her she endangered his safety. He was pale, like he saw something. A beat, silence. She said he Googled you. What the hell did he find, David? Still, I didn't speak. She filled the space herself. She's unraveling, keeps repeating your name like it's some kind of threat. Says she keeps thinking about how you always check the doors, always park facing out, how you never sleep with your back to the room. She's connecting dots and it's freaking her out. Finally, I spoke. Quietly, calm. She should be more careful who she invites into my house. Then I hung up. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. A number I did recognize, her father. Old school, ex-army, one of those men who shook your hand too hard and made sure you knew he used to be someone. We'd never been close. He respected me, but always with an edge of patronizing approval. Like I'd married up. He called me son in that way fathers-in-law use to remind you you're not. David, he said, gruff, we need to talk. I sipped my coffee, let the silence stretch. I'm hearing some things, wild things, from my daughter. She's crying. Said this man, this boyfriend, left her because of you, because he found out something about your past. He coughed, like the words themselves burned going down. Now listen, son, I've always respected you. You've been good to her. But I gotta ask now, what exactly did you do before the insurance firm? I paused long enough for him to wonder if the line had gone dead. Then I smiled. Classified. And hung up. I stared out the diner window. A couple of teenagers were arguing over a gas station lottery ticket outside. Some part of me found that pure. At least their lies were small. Honest lies. Back inside, Patty gave me a nod. Everything good, hun? I nodded back. Better than it's been in years. I stepped outside. Cold wind hit me in the face like a baptism. My truck was parked across the lot just the way I liked it. Nose facing the exit. Nothing behind me but pavement and stories. The phone buzzed again. Messages this time. One from her. Please call me. He took everything. I'm scared. One from Carrie. She's talking about lawyers. Said she needs protection. From you. What is happening? One from her father. That's not an answer, David. Don't make me ask again. I turned the phone off. There's a shift that happens when silence becomes your only language. People stop seeing it as politeness and start seeing it as a storm front. They lean in for answers, but what they really want is reassurance. A way to reframe their own narrative so they're not the villains. But my silence wasn't for comfort. It was a mirror. And they were starting to see what they really looked like. Her family used to treat me like furniture at Thanksgiving. Polite nods, half listens, passive-aggressive digs over turkey. Now they whispered. Now they asked questions they used to laugh off. Now I wasn't boring David with the tool belt and soft-spoken tone. Now I was a shadow with a name they never bothered to research. Funny how that works. Funny how fast respect grows when fear waters the soil. Back in the truck, I let the engine hum for a while before pulling out. I didn't need to go anywhere specific. I just wanted to drive, to feel the wheel in my hand and the road beneath my tires, to remind myself that I was no longer tied to any place, any role, any story she tried to trap me in. I had become the silence between their questions. And nothing scares people more than the space where answers should be. She came in through the side door of the motel lobby, hood up, sunglasses on, like a guilty teenager caught shoplifting eyeliner. But this wasn't shame. It was fear, the kind that creeps under your skin after midnight and makes you jump at your own reflection. I watched her from the corner of the lobby, sitting in the same cracked vinyl chair I'd occupied the last few nights. coffee in one hand, silence in the other. She spotted me instantly. Of course she did. She always said I had a forgettable face, soft around the edges. Funny how that softness is now a shape she can't unsee. She approached slow, like the floor might crack under her next step. I didn't stand. I didn't offer a seat, just sipped the burnt coffee and looked at her the way a man looks at rain on the forecast. Expected, annoying, inevitable. "David," she said, voice brittle, like it had been ground down to its last usable note. "Can we talk?" Talk. A word we'd weaponized for years. "Let's talk," she used to say when she meant let me guilt you until you agree. But tonight, her tone wasn't manipulative. It was hollow, like someone who had finally realized the house was on fire and the exits were bricked shut. I said nothing. She sat in the chair across from me, legs crossed the way she always did when she wanted to appear composed. But her fingers betrayed her, twitching, fumbling with the strap of her overpriced bag. "I messed up," she said. I sipped again. "I didn't know," she continued. "He just seemed so exciting, different." I nodded. Not an agreement, just acknowledgement, like a man listening to a voicemail from a telemarketer who still thinks the sale is alive. She looked at me, eyes searching, not for forgiveness, for understanding, for context, for a version of me she could still handle. "I Googled more," she said. Her voice cracked on Googled, which was almost funny. "Is it true you were involved in—" I raised a hand, just one finger. She froze. "That's the past," I said. "You made your choice based on the present." Her mouth opened, then shut. She blinked, and I could see the internal collapse happening behind her eyes. "The moment you realize you played a game without knowing the rules." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "You didn't," I replied. "You clarified things." She reached out across the table, fingertips trembling, aiming for my hand like she was trying to reconnect some frayed power line. I let her get within an inch. Then I moved my hand back. Not fast, not dramatic, just enough. She flinched like I'd slapped her. The lobby was dead silent. The TV mounted in the corner flickered with muted headlines about markets, war zones, and some celebrity's divorce. The irony hung thick was in the air. "I thought you were just a guy," she said. "A good guy." I tilted my head. "You thought I was harmless," I corrected. "There's a difference." Her eyes welled up then. She blinked quickly, probably trying to stop herself from crying in public. But the tears came anyway, slow, humiliating, the kind of tears that don't earn sympathy, just consequence. "I lost everything," she said. I almost asked, "Define everything," but I didn't. Instead, I leaned forward slightly, just enough to remind her how close I could be without giving her anything. "No," I said. "You didn't lose anything. You gambled. You assumed the man in your bed was smaller than the man in your fantasies, that your boredom was worth more than your promises, that a thrill outweighed 17 years of quiet protection." She looked like a woman falling through a floor no one else could see. "I didn't know," she said again, a mantra now, a desperate little prayer. "You didn't want to know," I said. A pause stretched between us. She stared down at her hands like they might hold some key to rewinding the clock, but they were just hands, the same ones that had waved goodbye while I walked out the door, the same ones that had poured wine for another man while telling me to sleep in the garage. "Is this it?" she asked quietly. I finished the coffee, set the cup down. "This is the part," I said, "where you realize the only thing worse than being betrayed is betraying someone who never even raised his voice." She stood slowly, like the weight of her choices had finally settled into her spine. "I thought you were supposed to be the safe one," she whispered. I looked up at her, dead center, no blinking. "I was?" And with that, she turned and left, this time through the front doors, her hood down, her walk unsteady, no sunglasses now, no mask, just a woman caught in a mirror that finally showed her what she really looked like. I didn't watch her go, just picked up the cup, took one last swig of cold bitterness, and let the silence settle back in. It was good company, better than she ever was. The next morning, I didn't wake up angry. That part had evaporated days ago. What I felt now was surgical, a clean, clinical kind of focus, cold enough to slice through the mess without letting it bleed. The first call went to the bank. Not a question, not a conversation, just direct orders. I verified the account, asked for the division of marital assets to begin, requested a new personal account in my name only, and flagged all joint credit cards for review. The woman on the other end didn't ask why. She didn't need to. There was something in my tone, I think, a weight that made small talk feel disrespectful. The second call went to the lawyer, my lawyer, one I hadn't needed to call in almost a decade. He picked up on the second ring, no surprise in his voice, just a calm, "David." "I'm ready," I said. He didn't ask for clarification, just said, "Everything's already prepared. I'll have the courier to drop it off within the hour." Efficient men understand each other without theatrics. I spent the rest of the morning assembling the final package. Not a grand gesture, no melodramatic burn piles or red-inked letters, just a slim manila envelope placed dead center on the kitchen table of the house she returned to alone. Inside, divorce papers. Her name no longer on the deed, her access to the joint account removed, her financial ecosystem previously built on assumptions of my compliance dismantled without a single raised voice. She wouldn't know until she tried to move something, until she called her stylist to book another $600 reset session and her card declined, until she checked the bank app and saw her balance had been reduced to a polite afterthought. I imagined the moment she'd walk through that front door. No welcome home, no scent of dinner in the oven, just silence and the envelope. An address label with her name, misspelled by design just enough to remind her how little attention I needed to give her now. A small symbol of disconnection, of deliberate omission. The voicemail came in around 4:18 p.m. Her voice cracked halfway through the first word. "You're scaring me." That's what she said. Not "I'm sorry," not "can we talk," not "I didn't expect this." Just fear, just that. I played it once, then deleted it. Fear was appropriate, not because I intended harm, but because, for the first time in her life, she was dealing with someone she couldn't manipulate. She thought silence meant weakness. She was wrong. Silence is stronger than screaming. It doesn't ask for attention. It demands it. You can argue with yelling. You can cry over accusations. But silence is an empty room where every echo is your own guilt coming back to haunt you. She followed the voicemail with a flurry of texts, panic, spiraling. "I don't understand what's happening. We need to talk. You can't just erase me from the house. This isn't fair. You're the one scaring me. Are you trying to punish me? Is this revenge?" I didn't answer, because it wasn't revenge. It was correction. She thought she could live a double life with no consequences, that the boring man who made sure the water heater worked and the mortgage got paid would always be there in the background like a painting hung in a hallway no one walks through anymore. But I'd stepped off the wall, and now she was alone in that hallway. I did check the security cam once, motion alert triggered by the front door. She came home in a rush, stormed in like a woman expecting a scene, but there was nothing. Just that single envelope on the table like a loaded weapon. She picked it up, opened it, started pacing. Her mouth formed a dozen things I couldn't hear, but I knew the shape of those words. "What the hell? Are you kidding me? He can't do this. Where's the rest?" She threw her phone once. It bounced off the island and landed in the sink. That made me smile. But not for long, because I wasn't enjoying this. I wasn't gloating. I was simply done. You can't negotiate with someone who only respects volume. You have to take away the one thing they thought they owned without question. Your silence, your patience, your presence. She spent 17 years assuming I'd never leave the stage, that I was a prop in her drama, stoic, stable, ignorable. Now the lights were off, the set was empty, and she was the only one still reciting lines, alone. The first crack in her social mirror came at the gym. Not dramatic, not loud, just a subtle ripple in the usual choreography of her weekday routine. The same overpriced leggings, same smug smile, same iced protein shake after hot yoga. Only this time, her favorite instructor, a 20-something with a tattoo of a phoenix and a tone that always danced just shy of patronizing, didn't greet her with the usual performative warmth. "Hi, actually, I think today's session is full," the girl said, avoiding eye contact, adjusting the class roster without touching it. My wife, well, ex-wife pending paperwork, laughed. That laugh, the one she used when she was trying to reassert dominance with faux confusion. Full? I've had this slot booked for 6 weeks. The instructor shrugged, apologetic in that corporate way that isn't really sorry at all. Yeah, it's just maybe come back next week. That's how it starts. Not with a scandal, with a soft exclusion wrapped in fake smiles. She texted me after, not a question, an accusation. Did you say something to people at my gym? I didn't answer, because I hadn't, but I didn't need to. Whispers don't need a conductor when the silence starts humming on its own. She went to work the next morning dressed like she was about to interview for a position she already held. Hair too perfect, makeup too precise. That's what guilt looks like when it tries to cosplay as control. Her coworker, Marla, someone she once bragged about helping through a divorce, walked past her in the hall without the usual stop and gossip. That's when it clicked. She wasn't in control anymore. She was the topic. She was the story. And she had no idea where it started. The neighbor next door, the one she used to passive-aggressively scold for not trimming his hedges, muttered something as she pulled into the driveway. Shouldn't have provoked him, he said, not loud, but loud enough. Did you know what he used to be? She spun, demanding, Excuse me? But he was already walking away, leash in hand, whistling for his Labrador like she didn't matter anymore. That night, she texted again. People are saying things. About you, about what you were before. I don't know who's talking, but it's getting around. Another came an hour later. A client asked if I needed security clearance to be married to you. What did you do, David? She followed with a voicemail, short, breathless. You didn't have to do this. I played it once, deleted it again. I hadn't done anything, but I'd stopped protecting her. That was enough. You see, all those years, she paraded herself at brunches and fundraisers and Pilates retreats. She thought my silence was just background static. She called me solid, like it was a compliment. But what she meant was forgettable. Now she realized that when the man you forget walks away, he takes the shelter with him. She never knew how much of her image was built on the absence of mine. The respectable husband, the homeowner, the one who never drank too much at parties, who said thank you to the valet, who never once embarrassed her in public. She curated a life atop my restraint, and now that it was gone, the cracks were visible to everyone. Whispers are funny like that. They grow faster when they aren't corrected, and I had no intention of correcting anyone. Some said I was military, others said government, some said I was involved in something offshore. Intelligence work, maybe. One woman told her husband I'd been in a special unit with no insignia. Another claimed I'd once handled cleanup operations for undisclosed international incidents. I heard all this secondhand. People love a good myth. They love it even more when the subject doesn't deny it. I just kept walking my route, picking up coffee, stopping by the hardware store, nodding to familiar faces without offering conversation. That scared them more than shouting ever could. The community had turned, not aggressively, but precisely and quietly, like frost creeping under a closed door. And she started changing. Her voice grew thinner. Her posts on social media slowed. The carefully staged photos of brunches, the gym selfies, the motivational quotes all vanished. She began leaving the house less, avoiding eye contact. Her gait stiffened, like she expected every corner to hold an explanation she couldn't stomach. She called her sister, her father, her friends, and they didn't answer the way they used to, because once a whisper starts, even loyalty checks the wind. I didn't orchestrate it. I just let it breathe. The room was too quiet, one of those corporate law offices designed to neutralize all emotion. Glass walls, brushed metal, a bowl of stale mints no one touches. The only sound was the distant hum of a printer down the hall and the sharp tick of the second hand on the wall clock. Every tick felt deliberate, surgical. She arrived late, not out of disrespect. I think she just needed those extra minutes to build a version of herself that might still be salvageable. The door opened and she stepped in, wearing a blazer that still had the tags folded inside the sleeve. Her hair was neater than usual, makeup lighter. She looked uncertain, like she was stepping into someone else's funeral but wasn't sure if she was the guest or the casket. She sat across from me at the long table, hands folded, then unfolded, then folded again. No one else in the room. My lawyer had stepped out. On my request, she wanted a meeting. I wanted her to see that she no longer had the right to dictate the terms. She looked up, eyes red but dry. I didn't know who I married, she said. I looked at her, just looked. She was thinner now, not in a flattering way, in a haunted way, like the whispers had drained the fat from her face and the trust from her spine. Her voice didn't tremble, but not because she was strong, because she was already empty. Still, I said nothing. So she reached into her oversized handbag and pulled out a box, worn, taped on one side, with our old address scribbled in my handwriting across the top. My handwriting. From when she still used to read it like it meant something, she slid it across the table. I found these in the attic, she said. Didn't want to throw them out. Figured they were yours before they were ours. Inside the box, a few ties I hadn't worn since Obama's second term, an old leather wallet with my father's initials pressed into the spine, and, tucked between two forgotten postcards, a photo. Our wedding day. Black and white, professionally shot but not staged. Just a moment. She's laughing. I'm staring at her like I can't believe she chose me. She must have noticed my eyes lock onto it. She lowered her voice. I didn't mean to humiliate you. A whisper, as if saying it louder would break something already crumbling. I set the photo down, let the silence settle between us. Then I finally spoke. You didn't, I said. You freed me. Her breath caught. You could see it, a half-second hesitation, like her body didn't know whether to sigh or sob. I don't know who I am anymore, she said. That's because you always defined yourself by who you were standing next to. She nodded, slowly, like someone realizing she'd been holding the wrong map for 17 years. She tried to say something else. Her lips parted, eyes flicked to mine, then away again. But whatever it was, it died in her throat. Not because I stopped her, because she knew, deep down, that no apology could outpace what had already been set in motion. The truth was this. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry for what it cost her. And I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even disappointed. I was simply done. The weight was gone. The future we once spoke about, retirement homes in Arizona, driving cross country in an RV, grandkids crawling on Christmas carpet, that wasn't grief anymore. That was fiction, bad fiction, the kind with predictable dialogue and a weak plot twist. I stood. She didn't move. You'll be served the final documents next week, I said. Everything's already signed. She nodded again. This time it looked like surrender. I picked up the box, tucked the photo into the side flap without looking at it again, and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't close the door gently. Didn't say goodbye. Because this wasn't an ending. It was an extraction. 3 weeks. That's how long I waited. Not for her, but for the static to clear. Paperwork finalized. Keys dropped at the bank. Accounts locked. Titles transferred. My name surgically removed from every place she used to feel safe. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't need to. I packed light, not because I had nothing worth keeping, but because there's a kind of freedom in choosing what doesn't follow you. I drove north. No destination, just direction. The kind of drive where the radio fades out one station at a time until all that's left is engine noise and the occasional whisper of your own breath. The cabin sits on the edge of a ridge, middle of nowhere. Closest town's just a post office and a bait shop. No signal, no cameras, just trees and wind, and a silence too deep for apologies to echo in. It's the kind of place you don't find on accident. The realtor asked for a name. I gave him an old one. The kind no one Googles because it doesn't lead anywhere. He didn't ask for more. People like me pay cash and leave no footprints. Inside, the walls are bare pine, the fireplace smokes a little, but it's honest smoke, earned, not faked. The bed creaks, the floors settle. The air's cold and clean, like the first inhale after a lie's been lifted off your chest. And in my bag, folded carefully, was the photo, the one she returned in that lawyer's office. The two of us, young, wide-eyed, drenched in confetti and delusion. Me staring at her like she was the answer, her smiling like she was the prize. That night, I laid it flat on the hearthstone, watched it for a moment, then struck the match. It curled slow, started at the corner, took its time. Her face went first, mine lingered longer, even the fire seemed to hesitate before taking me, but eventually it did. And when it was gone, fully, finally gone, I felt something uncoil in me. Not joy, not grief, just room. She'll never hear from me again. No texts, no letters, no court motions or late-night voicemails. Just silence, a silence big enough to get lost in, the kind that wraps around you like a second skin. She'll talk, of course, spin her story, change the ending depending on the audience. Maybe I had a breakdown. Maybe I ran away with someone else. Maybe I snapped and became a recluse. Maybe I was never who she thought I was. But late at night, when her phone's dark and her friends stop picking up, she'll remember the boyfriend, the Google search, the way he looked at the screen, then at her, then backed away like he'd stepped on a mine. And she'll wonder, she'll have to wonder, because nothing I could say would ever compete with the noise in her head. She'll remember the night I walked out, the envelope on the table, the name on the deed without hers, the faces that turned from hers in yoga classes and boardrooms, the neighbors who suddenly had nothing polite to say. She'll remember all of it. But mostly, she'll remember me, not the man who mowed the lawn and folded laundry and fixed her father's roof, but the shadow that slipped out of her life with no threat, no explanation, no sound. And she'll ask herself, who was I? And that question, that unanswered question, will live longer than any apology. That's the real legacy. Not revenge, not destruction, just a vacuum so deep she'll never stop falling into it.